Please welcome to the stage Axios Local's Texas Bureau Chief, Bob G.
Good morning. I'm Bob G., Axios Texas Bureau Chief. I'm thrilled to be with you here this morning for this Axios Local Community Solutions event focused on expanding the STEM talent pipeline here in Houston. If you're following along virtually, please join the conversation using the hashtag #AxiosEvents. Now I'd like to introduce our first guest. He's the president of Rice University and an engineer by trade. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Reginald DesRoches. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. I wanted to start by highlighting the work you've done in expanding diversity at Rice University. As provost, you founded the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office, expanding the diversity of the faculty and graduate students, and you've also made strides in expanding diversity of the undergraduate student body. That I read recently that the incoming domestic freshman class is 32%, almost 1/3 from historically underrepresented communities. What have been the challenges in making those achievements, and how have you found success?
Yeah, well, first of all, Bob, thank you for having me here, and thanks Axios for convening this important discussion. We've made great strides during my time at Rice. Obviously, you talked about the undergraduate student body. This incoming class is the most diverse we've had at Rice, with about 1/3 of our students from underrepresented groups. We've also made strides at the graduate level in terms of recruiting diverse graduate students, which is a little bit more challenging. And most importantly, I'm really proud of the strides we've made on the faculty side in terms of doubling the number of Black faculty at Rice in the last 5 years, which is really important for our students to see people in the classroom that look like them. And so challenges is really, obviously this has to be part of the university's culture. There's a top-down component to it, but really this has to be faculty-driven, particularly at the university. Faculty have to believe that this is important for them. It's important for our students to have a diverse student body. And so it takes a lot of conversation and a lot of work to make sure it's ingrained in the culture and everything that we do, the importance of having a diverse and inclusive environment at the university.
Specifically, when you look at engineering, which is your background, and the STEM fields in general, what are the hurdles in attracting students of color? Does the effort really start at the high school level, or even before that?
Yeah, it certainly starts even before the high school level, but certainly the high school level, getting a diverse student body into the university is important and the first part of the challenge. But when they're there, making sure that these students have the right support group and support services. Many of these students do not have the same background as others coming in, so making sure that you have a supportive environment. Oftentimes, they are the only ones in their class that look like them, and there are challenges associated with that. And so we have a number of programs at Rice that help address that in terms of bringing the students together, building a community up before they actually even start at Rice, so they come in during the summer. And that program has done amazing things in terms of increasing the graduation rate for underrepresented groups in STEM fields.
Yeah, so the big key is retention, right? To make sure that the students don't drop out after a year if they don't feel like they're comfortable or...
Absolutely. And again, it's obviously making sure you recruit a diverse class, but making sure that they feel included in the university and they see others like them, and they have a cohort of students that go through the same challenges that they go through.
When you talk about, we're here to talk about expanding the STEM pipeline in Houston and increasing diversity. So at Rice, those students from those underrepresented communities, as they're progressing through the undergraduate experience, how are you able to help them find jobs and careers here in Houston, because there's a great need for new young talent?
There is, and we have a number of programs through our Center for Career Development that helps these students. One of the things that we find that works well is making sure, particularly these underrepresented students coming into the STEM fields, have a connection to the faculty, because faculty also often have that connection to industry and can really help the students. And so part of these programs that we do is early on, when these students first come into the university, connecting them to the faculty, providing that relationship to the faculty so that they feel like they have somebody they can go to when they have these questions about career opportunities and where they might take their degrees and where they might find opportunities for the specific disciplines.
And Rice is really a national university, but how many graduates stayed here in Houston for, say, their first job?
Yeah, a good number do, depending on the discipline. Obviously, there are certain disciplines which lend itself to going on the West Coast, at least traditionally, and I think that's starting to change as we retain more IT talent here in Houston and Texas. Roughly 36% of our students are Texas students, 50% out of state, and the balance, around 14% are international students. And so we do find somewhere in the range of half of our students staying in Texas and some portion of that staying in Houston. And I think increasingly as Houston builds this innovation ecosystem around IT, but also around clean energy, we're seeing more students stay here in Houston, which I think is great.
Yeah. I wanted to take a step back and discuss diversity as a value in universities and the workforce. There's a climate, a political climate that might run counter to some of the efforts that you and your peers at other universities are undertaking. Just yesterday in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill that cuts funding for DEI offices at Florida universities, public universities. Here in Texas, a similar effort is advancing in the legislature that would essentially close DEI offices at public universities. So I wanted to reframe what one of really Axios' most important, we call them axioms, if you read the newsletter, why it matters. In your opinion, why does diversity matter?
Yeah. So for us, it's not a political issue. We don't view this as a political issue. I know, although in some cases people think it's truly a political issue, a couple of reasons. One, to remain competitive. When we're recruiting faculty and staff, they want to come to a place where it's diverse, both in terms of their colleagues, faculty and staff colleagues, and the student body is diverse. So for us to be competitive as a university, we have to be diverse. Same with the students. Our student body appreciates having diversity in their classes, in their college. We have a residential college system where 80% of the students live on campus. Our students seek that. They appreciate that. And so for us to be competitive, to continue to recruit the best students to Rice and the best faculty and staff to Rice, we have to be diverse. And on the flip side, when we think about how we educate our students, they're only in classes typically 12 hours a week. The learning that takes place is largely outside the classroom. And that learning is really when you bring groups of people with different backgrounds, different experiences, different challenges, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different talents together in the classroom, outside the classroom. That's when people really, truly learn. And I think for us, that's what makes the Rice experience so unique, is that we have this incredibly diverse student body that is together in the colleges, in classes, and everything that they do, and that really provides a unique learning experience.
I should say because you're a private university, you're really beyond the reach of the state government and being able to say how you can recruit students and faculty. But are you concerned about, the University of Texas in Austin has also made amazing strides and the student body is much more diverse than it was 10, 15 years ago in terms of Hispanic students and also black students. Are you concerned that your public university peers in Texas are going to lose ground in those efforts?
I hope not. I hope that they'll find ways to maintain the diversity. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the ruling this coming summer. Independent of that, we will work hard to recruit a diverse class of the most excellent students to the university, and I suspect our peers, our public peers in the state will do the same thing.
So you're referring to the decision this summer, and that's the U.S. Supreme Court. We expect by the end of this term, which is typically the end of June, they'll issue a decision that will ban affirmative action across the United States at public-private universities. How concerned are you about that at Rice?
Yeah, I think we are concerned. That being said, we have the way we look at our student body, in particular when we're recruiting students, is to have a holistic application process where we look at the student as a whole student And we really look at the context of their background and their training. And so we have the ability, again, we're smaller than some of our public peers, to look at every application as an individual student. And we really assess them based on the range of experiences that they have coming in. And we will continue to do that. Other things that we're doing is making sure we're enhancing the partnerships we have with community colleges as an avenue to recruit exceptionally talented and diverse students. And we recently announced a new partnership with TSU, and we'll be expanding our partnerships with some historically black colleges and universities here in Texas and beyond Texas.
So that would be a recruiting students at those community colleges? Yeah. So the admissions process, though, is going to have to change at Rice? I mean, just because, I'm sure you do take race and ethnicity as part of the holistic review, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much it would have to change, actually, given the way that we do a true holistic review of our student applicants. Okay. We'll continue to do that, and so it's not clear to me if it's going to have to change. It depends how far-reaching the ruling is, how we have to change our application and review process.
Okay, so is the Board of Trustees concerned? Have they met with you or your staff about how to?
We haven't met yet. I mean, the board meets with us obviously 4 times a year. We haven't addressed this specific issue. We'll wait and see when the ruling comes out how we might reconsider the way we do our admissions.
And I guess you have time since the next class will be. You've already got your class.
Yeah, we've gotten a class, and this year was the most. We had 32,000 applicants for a class of 1,200 students coming in, and it's again very diverse, the most diverse class we have coming in this fall. So we have really about 6 months since we do the admissions in late fall, early next year. We'll do that, and so we have 6 months to assess how we might need to change things up.
Okay. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and just talk about your personal trajectory, being, I take it was probably 30 years ago when you were starting out as just roughly my age.
Little more than 30 years ago, but thank
you. When you were starting out as a college student, and how was your experience being a black man I think you were in California, but or how did you get into the STEM field in the first place? You're an engineer.
I'm an engineer. So I grew up in New York City. I'm the son of, I was actually born in Haiti, son of immigrant parents. I'm an immigrant myself, technically. I came when I was 1. A working class family, working class community. Ended up going to Berkeley. It's a long story. We don't have time to get into it now, how I ended up going from New York City to Berkeley. And I arrived at Berkeley in the mid '80s, and it was a shock to me. I thought I was great in math and science, and it was hard. But I had this incredible support system at that time at UC Berkeley. Similar programs. In fact, the program that I was part of at UC Berkeley is the one that we modeled at Rice, and other universities have modeled it, to take kids that are first generation that perhaps don't have the background but have the ability to be successful. And I went through that program, and it really changed my life and allowed me to be successful. And I found great mentors, and ended up finishing my undergraduate degree at UC Berkeley, then doing a PhD at Berkeley, and then going on to Georgia Tech for my first academic role.
How important were those mentors?
They were huge. They were absolutely huge. Not just the mentors, but the support system that Berkeley had at that time. That's before Prop 209 in Berkeley, which eliminated affirmative action. We had a really rich group of students there that can serve as mentors, both the seniors, the Black and Hispanic seniors that we looked up to, but also then the graduate students that were there at the time were incredible mentors and really motivated us and told us to think about graduate school. I didn't even know what graduate school was at that point. I was just trying to get out of Berkeley. And so there were people there that were really pushing us to think beyond what our imaginations can even think about.
We're about to wrap up here. I wanted to ask a final question, channeling Mike Allen, the Axios' co-founder and interviewer extraordinaire. Tell us one fun thing about you, Reggie, that people might not know. Or
oh wow, that's a tough one. I grew up in New York, so I'm an avid New York sports fan. I love the New York Jets, and so people consider me sort of a calm person. But when I'm watching football, I am screaming in front of the television, and so people are shocked when they hear that because I'm generally pretty calm person.
So you're Jets, not Giants.
I'm Jets, not Giants. I'm Mets, not Yankees.
Okay, yeah.
And
Queens.
Knicks, not Nets. And so Queens, exactly. So it all makes sense.
Good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And next, we have a View from the Top segment moderated by Axios publisher Nicholas Johnston.
Thank you all for being here. This is the second visit to Houston by Axios. We're very excited to be back, and we wouldn't be here without the support of our partners. Nothing that we do at Axios, from events like this to delicious breakfasts to the investments we make in local journalism, including two reporters here in Houston, would be possible without the support of our partners. So a huge thanks to the American Chemistry Council for being a launch partner with us in Houston, helping launch a newsletter and bringing us back again for our second event. So I want to welcome to the stage for a View from the Top segment, Chris John, the President and CEO of the American Chemistry Council, and Bruce Chin, the President and CEO of Chevron Phillips Chemical. Chris, great to see you again. Bruce, welcome to Axios. So we were here in September talking about sustainability in Houston, and it almost leads to an open question for all these great ideas that need to be implemented, require smart people to come up with the ideas and to implement them. And so I think it's a very natural transition to talk about where do you find those people? How does it work? So let's start off big picture, some of your thoughts on the importance of workforce development and what industry is doing to try and foster that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Last fall we talked about how chemistry is the key that really unlocks sustainability. And whether it's the innovative products that our members make, things like advanced materials for electric vehicle batteries or for home insulation that keeps your house cool in the summer and warm in the winter, or how our members make those materials, whether they're reducing emissions in that process or they're creating what we call a circular economy where things are made to be remade. We need scientists and engineers to make that happen. And as we move forward as an industry to drive that progress, we really need to be bringing a lot of folks into the industry. Younger generations in particular are really interested in sustainability. So I think about my kids who are Gen Z, right, and trying to attract them to the industry. We need scientists and engineers and operators to make that progress happen. And in fact, yesterday I had the privilege of being at San Jacinto College at the Lyondell-Basell Center, Petrochemicals, Energy and Technology Center. They got a couple thousand kids with just high school diplomas that they're bringing into the industry, giving them advanced training and helping them come into make the world a better place.
I mean,
Really
walking
exciting.
the halls of that school yesterday, what jumped out at you? What seemed really awesome? What seemed really interesting? What gave you hope for the future?
Yeah, so first of all, hope for the future was actually the students themselves. We had the opportunity to meet with a few of them. And they said the average age there is 26. So you got 18-year-old high school graduates, and you've got folks who are in their 30s looking to come into the industry. So that was number one. And number two is that place is amazing in terms of the technology they have there. And so you've got labs that are literally have millions of dollars worth of equipment that are just like what they'd be working with on the job.
Right.
It's fantastic.
And I love having folks from industry here. Bruce, thanks for joining us today. You can probably bring us into the real world, actual implementation of this. You're a massive employer here, an award-winning employer. What is your approach to this? What have you figured out? What are the things that work?
Well, I think industry has to play at all different levels, and starting at K through 12. CP Chem is involved in a number of things. A couple examples, we work with some community groups, the Urban Enrichment Institute, which is a program for at-risk males from age 12 to 19, really helping them with leadership skills and education and focus. And we've hosted at least one of those groups and plan to do more of that at our facilities. Another example is St. Elmo's Brady Academy, working with the U of H. We sponsor that, and for underrepresented young people that are interested in becoming engineers, scientists, and mathematicians. And we not only support it money-wise, but many of our employees volunteer in that work. The Society of Plastic Engineers has something they call Plastivan that goes around into our local communities where we operate, and we spend time with them in supporting that program. There's some things that we do in other communities. We have a facility in Brazoria County, for example, and we have Career Signing Day. We participate in that, where we treat students that choose skilled trades that want to be operators, instrument technicians, welders. They make that choice, and we celebrate them just like we do athletes that go into that. So really trying to bring value and focus to how important those roles are in our communities.
And I think it's about finding partners in those communities. I find this a lot in workforce conversations across industries, where it's not just sitting at the end of the pipeline waiting for folks to get out of school. It's like you mentioned children who are as young as 12, where you're starting to look into that. How important is it to get it early and to be a partner with the programs that are building this?
Oh, I think it's extremely early. There's something that when we look at the education systems that we call the leaky pipeline, where students may start off early, but because either lack of support or interest, we have to work with them to really patch that pipeline and keep it full of young people that want to come into our industry, into science and STEM fields.
So Chris, I think this is something that's probably happening on a national basis as well. As Bruce is working in these communities, are there nationwide type programs that you're looking at to build this pipeline from the ground up?
Absolutely. You talked about a leaky pipeline. And so when you look at our industry, it looks a lot like me. It's white, it's male. And so instead of hoping that changes over time, our industry is driving that change. And so we created a program a couple years ago called the Future of STEM Scholars Initiative, or FOSSI. And what it is it's a $40,000 scholarship for students to study STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and math at historically black colleges and universities. So in a little over 2 years, we have 295 students in college right now, 40 different majors at 40 different schools. And we have raised over $30 million for this program, which makes it one of the very biggest of its kind in the country. And in addition to all of that, the program also has internship and mentoring opportunities. So I'm really proud of how our members have stepped forward to enhance the talent in our industry and plug some of the leaks in the pipeline.
And when you talk to your members, this is something, do they use phrases like, oh, it's a war for talent, right? Like there's an altruistic element to this, but you need to find smart people to be competitive and to create these kinds of solutions, right?
Absolutely. So we need, again, the scientists, engineers, the operators for our members to be successful going forward. And this country needs at least 1 million STEM employees by the year 2030. And we want more than our fair share of them. So that's part of the battle for talent here, and that's how we're going to win.
Right. Bruce, can you dig in a little bit, again, maybe to the more tactical level? Like, as you're beginning to look at these programs, like, what are the skill sets that younger people, that students should be developing? Like, what do you need to become successful in this?
Well, clearly, first of all, I want to do a shout out to CP Kim's FOSSI Scholars. If they're watching, we support the program. We've pledged more than $1.4 million in support of FOSSI Scholars as we go forward. But I think that in addition to the fundamentals of science and math, communication skills, the ability, learning agility, the ability to have digital acumen. Our industry is moving at warp speed, and so we need those critical thinking skills and ability to adapt to the challenges out there and learn while they're working.
And is part of the need for those skills helping you look to, you mentioned this a little bit, the programs, to groups that you typically wouldn't look for? It's not a standard, you got a 4-year degree and now you send a resume to you. It seems like a far more innovative pipeline to find these kinds of...
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there are a lot of programs that are focusing on students who really fundamentally aren't destined to go to a 4-year university. And I think the Houston area has done a great job. Chris mentioned San Jacinto, but there are other local areas that are really working with high schools and other institutions to really help people understand that they can get a certification. For example, we work with high schools in the communities that we operate in for kids to take dual credit courses that allow them to have certification for process operators, electrical technicians, welders, et cetera. So it's really been beneficial, I think.
And that'll let you find students that wouldn't have followed that traditional path.
Absolutely.
Well, it widens that net.
Absolutely. When I think about, in our facilities here in the Gulf Coast area where we are trying to employ folks, our applicant pools are pretty rich and strong. We feel very good about that. As always, trying to increase the diversity of those pools. But there are other areas that we have to work in. I mean, many young people don't understand the oil, gas, and petrochemical industry. And so we're engaged in the communities to help shine a light on the opportunities that exist in those professions as we go forward.
All right. We're about to get the hook here. Chris, I'm going to give you the last word. Axios is all about one big thing. What's the one thing folks should be taking away from this conversation today?
This is not your grandfather's chemical industry. That's we've learned from some of the challenges that we've had in the past. We live by a credo of continuous improvement through our flagship program called Responsible Care, focused on environment, health, safety, and security. That's a third-party audited condition of membership. And so that's the credo that we live by. And our vision really as an industry going forward is a world made better by chemistry, where people live happier, healthier, more prosperous lives, safely and sustainably for generations to come. And so the way we do that is attracting these folks into the industry. And the great thing about our industry is there are pathways here, whether you've got a high school diploma, 2-year, 4-year PhD. And so if you, as Steve Jobs said, if you want to make a dent in the universe, the power of chemistry can help you make that happen. So come join us.
It's a great way to end. And Chris, Bruce, thanks for joining us. Thanks for making this today possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcoming back to the stage, Axios Local's Texas Bureau Chief, Bob G.
Again. Before we begin our next segment, I wanted to let everyone here know, if you don't already, that Axios Local is in 4 Texas cities, here in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin. Our goal is to make you smarter faster. We write about what's happening in the local business community, local government, culture, entertainment, where to eat. And you'll meet one of our Axios Houston reporters, Shafaq Patel, in the final segment. So I encourage you to check us out on the screen in the back there. You can scroll through and read Axios Houston stories. I want to now introduce our next guest. He is the president and CEO of Houston Advanced Research Center, or HARC. Please welcome to the stage John Hall. Nice to see you. John, I wanted to start with an intriguing optimism that you have in Texas, continuing to make strides in reaching climate goals. I wanted to ask about if we can dig into that a little bit, and also what role you think people from underserved communities can play in that energy transformation in Houston and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning, everybody. That's a long question, so please follow up.
Yeah, 2-part question.
I think, first of all, some background is important, briefly. Oil was discovered in Texas in 1901 at Spindletop, which propelled the Texas economy and made Houston the energy capital of the world. That same year, however, the Texas legislature put in place strict laws that effectively denied African Americans and later on Latinos the opportunity to participate in the political process. As a result, these groups were denied the opportunity to be involved in the decision-making process with regard to our government and also every other sector in the economy. There is a direct relationship between political power and economic opportunity. And because, so for the next 100 years and beyond, the oil and gas industry, with the highest jobs of any sector in the economy, developed, but without the inclusion of African Americans and Latinos. The clean energy transition that we are now in the midst of is starting differently, at least right now. There are deliberate efforts being made by government, as well as large energy companies and the private sector overall, to especially include Latinos and African Americans in this revolutionizing economy, revolutionizing part of our economy. And because of that, and including these significant investments being made by government as well as businesses, and the inclusive nature of this effort, I'm optimistic that perhaps this energy transition that's underway can produce different and more beneficial outcomes for these communities and for all Americans as we move forward. So that's the basis of my optimism. We're starting well. The challenge is to make sure we stay the course and consistently stay focused on delivering equity in our energy sector and across all sectors as we move forward.
I promised I wouldn't get you in trouble by asking you a question about politics, but I will just set the stage here that this transformation is going to have to take place against some headwinds from Austin when you have the legislature looking at offering 20-year 0% loans for companies to build natural gas plants, and at the same time removing renewable energy from probably the state's largest tax abatement program called Chapter 313, which brings major investments into predominantly small Texas towns to build what had been a lot of wind power. So I guess you are. I mean, is it the market forces you think that are going to drive the transformation beyond any political incentives?
What's happening, particularly at the state level, is concerning, but I really don't want to focus on that, because there are powerful forces at play that still provide a basis for progress. What the federal government's effort and the significant investments that exist, and the Justice 40 policy that the Biden administration has put in place, provide enormous opportunities to uplift low-income, moderate-income communities. And the fact that business across all economic sectors are moving forward to make billions, if not trillions of dollars of investments. I think that movement, that progress can potentially can keep the progress moving forward. I would also say this. I especially worked in my previous job managing for my previous employer clean energy and clean transportation initiatives in Texas. And what I was struck by is that economic forces, market forces, are the key variables that have driven Texas to be the leading producer of wind power and put Texas in the position of being the leading producer of solar power. And the fact, I've worked on environmental issues for the past 35 to 40 years. And one of the concerns that governmental leaders and business leaders have always had is that environmental regulations tended to increase their cost. This is the first time in the past 30 to 40 years that I have worked on these issues where the solutions are also the most cost-effective options. Solar power and wind power are the cheapest sources of power today and have the potential to create thousands and potentially millions of jobs. And I think that the most important policy that has existed in this country since its founding has always been economic development and job creation. And because market forces and strong support and involvement by businesses, particularly the energy sector, I think all of those things potential and hopefully create the necessary progress that cannot be reversed, and we will stay the course for the long term.
So hundreds of thousands, perhaps 1 million jobs. We're here today to talk about how to expand that pipeline. One of the themes that I think we've heard over and over is that it's got to start young, that you've got to be able to get kids excited about STEM fields, particularly kids in underserved communities. How do you think we can do that?
One of the things that we're doing at HARC, and let me give a shout out to my board of directors as well as members of my team. One of the decisions that we have made is to utilize our expertise and concern to engage in low-income communities, particularly along the Gulf Coast, to develop strong working relationships with them, to listen to their concerns, and to gain their trust. And after having done that, utilize the expertise that we bring to the table with regard to environmental issues, water issues, and energy issues, climate equity and climate issues, to co-produce solutions to address the significant problems that exist in their communities in a manner that they have provided concrete guidance ongoing guidance in terms of what the strategic initiatives that are especially needed in their respective communities to address the problems that exist. As part of that, how we engage with young people, starting in grade school and junior high. We need to introduce particularly low-income kids to these amazing opportunities. There is an amazing marketing campaign that could be undertaken by the energy sector, for example. The STEM jobs are the basis for technology and innovations. They also are the highest paying jobs in the country, if not the world. And by a deliberate effort to provide scholarships, as Bruce and his company are doing, and seeking to expand that across all companies, and then organizations like mine, we are in a position to establish strong, viable internship programs where we bring those students into our organization to work with us as well as with partners on issues and in a manner to help address issues in their particular communities and concerns, the places that they come from. And so my thought is that if we all come together and utilize what we know and combine that with goodwill, we have the ability to put in place a variety of programs and initiatives to interest young African Americans and young Latinos in the STEM areas and careers, and so that they can be part of the significant changes and opportunities that are forthcoming. But investments deliberately and thoughtfully made is absolute key. My biggest worry is, will we have the patience to stay the course and continue to make these investments over the long term, which is absolutely necessary to ensure that key goals are met.
So it sounds like we need a marketing campaign to let kids know that these careers are cool and that you can have a successful long career. I would say more than journalism would be. would. And I should say, many energy companies are already doing this. I would suggest that we need all energy companies to be involved, and for those who are already engaged, we need them to ramp up those efforts. And we need government and industry to work together, but also very importantly, to reach out, as we're doing at HARC, to community leaders and community organizations who are in touch with our young people every day, helping them to see the way forward. And I would also go back to the marketing campaign. It's important what things that may get my attention, your attention, don't necessarily work with young people. So let's bring them to the table and help forge those marketing and education programs and and put forth the message that I would suggest a very powerful message as possible that get more young people interested in these occupations. In the couple minutes we have left, I wanted to ask a personal question: how you got your personal career and how you got interested in environmental issues and environmental justice.
Well, I grew up on a farm, picking cotton and chopping cotton.
In Texas?
In Texas. But in the cotton fields, 100-degree weather in the summer, my parents instilled in us that, I have 8 siblings, that we were going to college so that we could get away from agriculture. And so I went to undergraduate school, majored in political science and history, graduated with honors, couldn't find a job, couldn't even get an interview. So I decided to go to graduate school and went to the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas. That led me to government, and I was introduced to these issues in the governmental sector. I worked on oil and gas activities through the General Land Office, which manages oil and gas operations on state lands for 6 years. Then I went to a river authority that also managed water resources as well as had electrical generation facilities. And then when Ann Richards was governor, she asked me to serve as chairman of what is now the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. And from that vantage point, I could see that energy issues, environmental issues, water issues were fundamental to growth of communities and the well-being of communities. And that if we could make progress in addressing inequities and injustices in these sectors, it could provide a foundation for real progress over time. And that's been my life work since 1983. And my friends ask me when am I going to retire, because y'all can see that I'm old. I have no interest in retiring because we have the best opportunity that we've ever had to address climate equity and economic inequities in my lifetime. And I believe what we do today and for the next few years can change the outlook and the opportunities for millions and millions and millions of African Americans and Latinos and other low-income people in this state. I believe that this work is the most important work that we could be doing at this time, and I very much want to be a part of it.
Well, John, thank you very much. I wish we had more time.
All right.
Thank you for joining Axios.
Please give a warm welcome to Axios local Houston reporter Shafaq Patel.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shafaq Patel, the co-author of the Axios Houston newsletter, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Our next guest is a major voice of the STEM talent pipeline, particularly in the energy sector. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Katie Maynard, the CEO and founder of Ally Energy. Thank you for joining us, Katie. To start off, tell me about where we stand in terms of the STEM talent pipeline here in Houston.
Well, the STEM talent pipeline in Houston is like most of the nation's pipeline. It's dry. We're going to need to do something to reinvigorate and get kids excited about this new manufacturing economy that's coming ahead of us, the build economy as a result of the IRA. And we're seeing a lot of population demographics at play. We've seen a workforce retire over the last 5-6 years. I remember hearing the great exit is coming, and it has happened. So there's going to be a number of things we need to do to really shore up the pipeline for Houston and for the nation.
Okay. We're all here gathered to talk about the clean tech and STEM pipeline intersection, but why is it important? Why is it important for Houston in particular?
Well, it's important for Houston because Houston is the energy capital of the world, and let's hope we remain the energy transition capital of the world, and Texas too. There are a lot of jobs that come as a result of that. There's a lot of money that's generated as a result of that. We have a very business-friendly environment. So it's really important that we make sure that we have a healthy pipeline of talent. But I will tell you, from a nationwide perspective, it can become a security issue if we do not have enough talent available to meet the needs of these projects. We hear the 2050 goals, we hear the 2040 goals, we have 2030 goals. To meet those net zero targets, we're going to need people. We're not going to AI our way out of this.
Yeah. So part of the workforce is having diversity, right? And 3 years ago, we had all of these statements from CEOs committing to diversity after the murder of George Floyd and the racial uprisings. Where are we now? It's 3 years. I know change takes time, but is there more than just commitment now?
Well, we're starting to see movement for sure. A lot of the clients that we work with, are shoring up. They're shoring up education. They're doing a lot of engagement. There's still a lot of work to be done in this space, and not just necessarily in STEM. It's across industry, right? That we're living in a time where we've awakened to the fact that we need more diversity in our workforce, and we need more equity. Period. So I think companies are still making commitments, but this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's something that needs to be seen as a long-term, sustainable effort.
Speaking to your point earlier, during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people leave the workforce, a lot retired, and a lot left because of the workplace environment. What can the energy sector do to retain these people? Is there more work that needs to be done in terms of working with women in marginalized communities?
Yeah, so we saw an inordinate number of women who left the workforce in the pandemic, and a lot of that was largely due to the choices they had to make from a family perspective. And we were doing okay, but we weren't doing the best before the pandemic when it came to gender equity. But I want to point out, I just looked at the recent data, and employment levels are starting to look like where they were pre-pandemic. The pandemic is over officially as of, I think, last week. So we're starting to see the labor market, kind of trend out a bit. We're looking at, flattening out. Despite the looming recession and all of the kind of economics that we hear, debt default, all the great fun things that we have to deal with, I think the labor market for energy is going to remain strong long term. Energy is not going away. It's just going to change. And so that workforce needs to move with it.
At Ally, you work a lot with high schoolers, middle schoolers, right? Talk to me about the importance of starting early.
So I cannot say this enough. The education system is broken. I think we know that. I think there are probably folks watching online and folks in the audience here that know that public education needs more investment. I absolutely am not a big proponent of spending, but if we're going to spend on anything, I think we need to spend on our future, and that is in climate and in our people. So when I pick up my kids' science curriculum, I'm kind of surprised to see that, for a family that lives in the energy corridor, the energy curriculum is just not there, right? So we need to do more to put better curriculum in place, but I also think we need to look at things like project-based curricula. So there's a school here in Houston, Energy Institute High School, that started several years back, and they teach kids how to do projects, how to build things, how to come up with business ideas. I didn't learn that in high school. I was lucky that I had maybe some of that, right, exposure in college. So I think we really need to be looking at how we're teaching kids, the approach and the methods to teaching kids, and we need to make sure that we're getting curriculum in front of them and job opportunity and the possibilities, right, of future jobs much earlier. They're absorbing that information much sooner than we would have, learning. So we've got to go younger.
How young?
I would say sixth grade. I think sixth grade is a good time. Just so happens my daughter's in sixth grade. But no, I think late elementary, early middle school is when they're starting to form ideas around things they like, and they want to develop the skills, that will nurture, hopefully, eventually a career.
Yeah. How do you get them excited about the energy sector right now?
Well, I think, look, 30% of the workforce in 4 years will be Gen Z. And this generation is very different. They are motivated by equity and environment. These are the top issues they cite that they want employers, right, to take note of. They're the most entrepreneurial generation. I think the way to get this next generation excited about climate tech and the future of energy is to look at that problem as an opportunity. So I think it's all in how we tap into that opportunity. I wrote a piece 2019 that said we need to tap the Greta Thunbergs of the world, to come and work for oil companies. So let's get activism off the street and into the labs solving problems.
Some of Gen Z is already in the workforce right now. I know there's this desire to attract talent early, but what about the people already in the workforce? How do you attract them? Is there a need to attract people in the workforce already?
So there's a need for more experienced talent. We have had a number of workers leave the workforce in droves because many of them have retired pre-pandemic, and we saw a lot of retirement post-pandemic. The smallest generation in the workplace is Gen X. Where are my Gen Xers? All right, the lost generation. There are a lot of Gen Xers in the workplace right now that are taking care of aging parents, and they're also raising, kids. But they are the smallest generation, and they are the next in line, right, for opportunities. So what's behind that is, Gen Y and obviously Gen Z. We need to do more to get people excited about energy careers. This is not just a problem in oil and gas, it's a problem in the renewable sector as well. Energy is not tangible. It's an esoteric topic. So most people are more interested in, tech, finance, the things that energy provides.
What are the selling points of energy then?
What are the selling points? How long is this program? I absolutely love, being in this industry. First and foremost, you're always making something. You're always building something, right? We're always, being challenged with creative problem solving, right? We're always, looking to push the limits of nature and push the limits of technology. So I think there's a lot of benefit to that. I also think there's, a fair amount of money that can be made in these jobs. These are great paying jobs, and you don't need to have a college education to get into, the energy sector. So it's a huge opportunity for people to want to be a part of it. I secretly hope we can recruit some of those tech workers we've lost from Silicon Valley, to join the energy sector as we grow and address the projects that are coming out of the IRA.
Yeah. Shifting gears here, policy really impacts pipeline as well, right? Talk to me about what policies are in place that can impact or be detrimental to the STEM pipeline.
Well, first and foremost, we need to stop defunding education, and we need to stop defunding diversity. We really kind of need to stop this whole concept of defunding. We're living in a really challenging time because the rent's coming due. The debt ceiling is really high, and the American way is to raise it. So we've got to start looking at how we're going to pay for all this stuff. But I also say we're consumers. We've created this, challenge, right? So we need to really think about what are important priorities for the short term and what are important priorities for the long term. And that takes a balance. I absolutely think we need to be doubling down on education, as I talked about. We need to be shoring up teachers and shoring up our kids, the next generation. Companies should be investing right in their workforces to retain, and to develop them. And we've got this big challenge called climate change. And we've got a lot of opportunity to reinvent, different energy technologies to decarbonize. Oil and gas is not going away. So we've got to do something to make it better. So I think that, we're living in a very challenging time. We have a very challenging political climate. There are a lot of politically homeless people. I'm looking at probably 70% of them, because America's in a state where we really are starting to question what do we value and what do we need to prioritize. Values never change, priorities do.
To kind of end in Axios fashion, what is the bottom line? What is the final takeaway?
Final takeaway, it's time to double down on education and on people. People are going to drive this workforce of the future.
Thank you so much for your time, Katie. And thank you to the American Chemistry Council for making this event possible. And thank you all for your time. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Axios local newsletter. Thank you.